Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are around the world. This is episode 3 of the Pulse 9 podcast, live on the Athletes Hub Facebook and YouTube pages. Oh, it's been a big week of football. I think that's the best
Yeah,
way to describe it. John, how are you, mate?
yeah, I'm good. Back this week. And a lot's happened in the last few days.
Oh, man. From a United standpoint, we've gone from fire Ollie back to Ollie at the wheel about
Yeah,
3 different times in the last week.
yeah,
Tottenham's got themselves a new manager. Watford's probably already thinking about firing their new manager. It's
yeah.
yeah.
Newcastle can't get a manager. Yeah,
It's oh man, it's been a whirlwind, but we'll kick it
yeah,
straight off with probably one of the bigger topics of the week. Tottenham has said it enough's enough. If we're losing 3-0 to an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer led
mm,
United, then Nuno, you can go take a hike, mate. And not 12 hours later, Antonio Conte was named as the
yeah,
new Tottenham Hotspurs manager.
yeah. That was a big surprise because they did try for Conte in the summer and it didn't work out. That's before they went on their sort of. Daniel Levy did his potential manager speed dating thing that seemed to last most of the summer. This game at the weekend was actually dubbed El Sacchio, Tottenham against Man United, and not a shot on target against a Man United team that was, after last week, was pretty much there for the taking. And yeah, Tottenham were terrible. No getting away from it. It's never looked like a good fit, and I feel sorry for Nuno. The problems at Tottenham go way beyond him. But it just was never going to work. So it felt like a mercy killing after 124 days in charge.
It's very quickly becoming a job that's not enviable for many managers around the world. And, you know, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit. I didn't know that it had been dubbed as El Sacchio, but you
I think
are
that was
right.
just here, but it really was.
I mean, you very well might have been right. Yeah, Tyler and I, episode 2 last week, we basically said if Ollie doesn't win 2 of the next 3, he's out the door.
Yeah.
He got that draw against Atalanta, just. And
Yeah.
again, the win last week helps his case a little. He's got we've got City this week, so we'll see how that goes. But how do you think Conte comes in at Tottenham? He's got Harry Kane, he's got Son there, he's got Eric Dyer, but you wouldn't say this is a Tottenham side circa 3 or 4 years ago that could have been contending for a title.
There's a lot wrong at Tottenham. They still have the front two, even though Kane's not looked himself recently. I don't know if the fact that he wanted away so badly is part of that, or it's just the usual early season slumber he tends to go through. But Kane is the kind of striker that does well with Conte. We saw it with Lukaku at Inter, and I think that's a good mix. Son obviously is fantastic. There's just the biggest problem is there's not, and you saw this in the Man U game, there's not a lot of creativity in that midfield. They can defend, but there's not really since Christian Eriksen left, they've not had that kind of player. And defensively, Conte likes to play 3 central defenders, but that means you've got to have someone who can play. And Toby Alderweireld could have done that, but of course he left in the summer. So I'm surprised Conte took this, especially as he'd already turned it down. But I can only imagine he's been promised a lot of money. And Daniel Levy not usually want to give a lot of money in transfers. So you wonder if this is all going to end in tears. But look, if Tottenham, they got him. He's a fantastic coach for all the hard work he brings. It's whether they really make good on what they've promised him over the next. And we'll find out in January because Inter, Conte, every transfer window is more players, more money. And it was relentless. And Tottenham don't really work like that. So it'll be fun to watch what happens in the new year.
I mean, realistically, you could say he did the same at Chelsea as well. Just
Yeah,
give more money, more players, had the owner that would do so, and it more or less worked out for him. Could you argue that this almost gives Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a little bit of breathing room because Conte is realistically the only manager out there at the moment that could have stepped straight into a Man U role?
Yeah, and I think that's also why Conte took the Tottenham job. I think he was getting impatient with Manchester United and waiting for them to move Solskjaer on. I mean, I've always thought with Man U that the manager they really want, and the one that I suspect they will eventually get to, is Pochettino. He's not going to come mid-season. I don't think that situation at PSG is going to last beyond the end of this year. I think that once the season's over, I think that with all the egos in that dressing room, it's not Pochettino's kind of club anymore. I think he would like to go to Manchester in the summer, but he won't go right now. I think Ole, if he gets to the last 16 of the Champions League, I think he's safe until the end of the season. But if it all goes wrong against Villarreal and young boys, then it's back to interim manager that is in Sir Alex's good books, and I can't think. Paul Scholes? Who's it going to be?
No, not Scholes.
Gary Neville, if he can.
I'm just getting flashbacks to Valencia.
Oh, yeah.
let's not go there.
Yeah, I think he'll be there till the end of the season, but I'd be shocked if he's there next year.
Yeah, if Solskjaer does get the sack in the end, Scholes is an interim manager. More than happy, but on a full-time basis, we'll see about that one.
Yeah.
But, we'll move on to another club that can't seem to find a manager in Newcastle United, despite now being dubbed as the richest club in the world. Themselves and Norwich, they need to get cracking with the knack in here if they want to stay up next year, because Newcastle look like absolute poop. Norwich is a foregone conclusion. Pookie Power, it's not a thing this year. They've scored something like 3 goals in the first 10 games. They're gone. But if Newcastle, who realistically have the side that should be able to get out of this spot, don't get rolling, Callum Wilson can't start scoring, if St. Maxim can't start scoring, then we could see the richest club in the world playing bloody Leeds United and Huddersfield in the Championship next year.
Yeah, I've seen Newcastle a few times this season, and they're awful. They really are awful. Getting rid of Steve Bruce, bringing the old assistant in as interim hasn't worked. They just still look exactly the same, and people say, well, it's the same group of players. And I'd say, well, yes, but you could try changing tactics. You might see a change in attitude, but none of that against Chelsea at the weekend. It was just, when were Chelsea going to get the first goal, and then how many? It was I think there was I saw a possession statistic of 20% of the ball Newcastle had. They were awful. And this week they tried to get Unai Emery, the former Arsenal and PSG manager, and they briefed, it seemed, the British media that was definitely a thing. He was definitely coming. And the next day he said, no, sorry. And now they're pursuing Eddie Howe, which I've heard may happen in the next day or two. But the real worry here is that Unai Emery and Eddie Howe, that's 2 pretty different managers. And if one's your plan A and one's your plan B, I don't know what you're aiming for. It just seems really confused, quite amateurish. I mean, why would you tell everybody you're getting this manager the day he's playing a big Champions League tie? I mean, that probably didn't go down well, and probably was part of the reason he said no. So yeah, they're in a mess, and it's 10 games to the transfer window, and they're 6 points adrift already. So this could get really ugly.
It could get really, really brutal for Newcastle. I think we spoke about it in episode 1 that they've got a couple of really good players, but outside of Callum Wilson, there's not a hell of a lot there. And
No.
yeah, looking at their. I mean, they've got an okay run. Their next 5, they can pull some back, but they're not going to get up against Brighton.
No.
The way Brentford's playing, they're going to struggle there.
Yeah.
Arsenal's looking like the Arsenal of old.
Yeah, they'll lose that.
Yeah, you got the Cellar Dweller derby against Norwich to kick off December.
Yeah. And then I think the next game is Burnley, isn't it, after that? So they've got to win those 2. There's just no getting around that. If they were to drop points there, and then you look at the games in the run up to Christmas, I think it's United, City, Liverpool, Everton. Okay, Leicester, they might get something there, but I think Leicester as well.
No, they won't. Come on, Jono. But give Everton a little bit of credit this year, mate.
Yeah, Rafa. I mean, I mean, if they don't get Eddie Howe, just waiting for Everton to sack Rafa might be the plan here and get him back. But
surely they're not going to sack Rafa.
Yeah, Everton's another one of those where they're going into a new stadium soon, and you need a bit of optimism and everybody happy and pulling in the same direction, and it's just not going to happen with Rafa Benitez in charge. So yeah, I don't think that'll last long. And the other thing with Newcastle is everyone's saying they've got all this money now from the Saudis, and it's like, well, if this is how you go about appointing a manager and you make this big a mess of it, what's it going to get like when agents start turning up on the 1st of January? It's just like ringing the dinner bell. I mean, they are going to get so badly fleeced, and they could still go down anyway. So it's such a strange situation because the Saudis coming in, that's been very unpopular everywhere else, but Newcastle fans are very happy about it, don't want to listen to the criticism. And now they seem to be swinging between that and this endless self-pity because they're being mocked. You see on their fanzines, there's these endless, why is everyone picking on us? And it's like, well, you kind of brought it on yourselves. And they have suddenly become the most unpopular team in England, which obviously they don't choose the owners, but the way they've reacted, it's been quite distressing, I think, for other people. And yeah, the team is terrible, and it could turn around. They could be another Manchester City, but we've seen other teams with a lot of money and go nowhere. And yeah, the Championship beckons as it stands.
Yeah, it's not ideal. We'll move away from England's most hated team onto Norwich, and well, yeah,
everyone feels a bit sorry for Norwich, don't they?
They're up one year, they're down the next. They're up one year, they're down the next.
They're
still living off that Premier League money from 6 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way it is sad because for older fans, I mean, Norwich in the first Premier League season almost won the whole thing. I mean, they really did. They led for a long time and they just slipped away towards the end, and Man United won it. But it could have been a dynasty at Norwich maybe if things had just ended differently that season. And it's just a yo-yo club now. Same with West Brom, same with Fulham, who, by the way, are both in the top 3 of the Championship right now, so we know what's coming next year. And they can't get out of that cycle. They're too good for the Championship. Daniel Farke's a good manager. But 3 goals in 10 games, 2 points. I watched them on Sunday against Leeds. And again, first half, they were okay. They competed. As soon as the second goal went in for Leeds, really, even though Leeds are struggling, you never thought for 1 minute, oh, Norwich might get a point out of this. There's very little in the final third. The one point of optimism, I think, for them is the players haven't given up. They are at least fighting for the manager. And in Todd Cantwell, when he comes back from injury, they will have a creative player. And if he and Rishika, the winger they brought in from Werder Bremen, those two could be dangerous, but it could be gone by the time they get them both playing. So I just can't make an argument for Norwich staying up. It's been pretty bad.
It's been brutal. They're already 8 points away from safety, and the run coming up again. It's not by any means great. It's not bad, but realistically, if you're a fantasy owner, you're not playing anyone from Norwich in your fantasy side. You're not, and you're definitely not looking at Norwich for their next up fix.
Yeah, they're the Premier. I mean, I hate to say this, but the record for lowest points total in the Premier League is 11, which was set by Derby about 13 years ago, and you could see Norwich breaking that. But one thing I found out about that, because it has reminded me of Derby and how bad they were, is guess who were the one team that Derby beat in that season, 11 points.
You're going to tell me it's Man United or something like that?
No, it's Newcastle. So yeah, oh God, if they lose, that is it's. I think it's about 3 weeks away, and you could just see if Norwich are going to win a game. It's that one. And just one other thing to say on this is: have you seen the picture of Steve Bruce this week? What he's been?
I haven't.
He's his son tweeted a photo the day they got tonked by Chelsea, and he was out in Oman watching the T20 World Cup, and he was just sat there looking 10 years younger and obviously £8 million richer. And that just seemed to infuriate Newcastle fans even more. So,
I mean, anyone who works under Mike Ashley is going to age about 30 years.
Yeah.
The second they walk in the door and gain 10 years back the second they walk out. So, But, we'll leave it at that. We'll move forward to... I don't know if this is a topic I was expecting to talk about at the start of the year. Napoli and AC Milan, the two teams that are well and truly out front in the in the Serie A. It's AC Milan, you kind of expect at points. Napoli, you expect at points. You don't expect them to be over 2 games ahead of their nearest rival, though.
No, I don't think anyone saw this. I think we all thought, because Inter are champions, but they sold players in the summer, and obviously Conte left. So we thought they'd regress, and they have. Juventus, they're also rebuilding at the minute. Allegri's just gone back there for his manager. He's had a clear out. He's got rid of Ronaldo. He's brought some talented young players in, but it's going to take time. And obviously you got Mourinho and Sarri, the two, the ex-Chelsea managers, now both in Rome. I think Napoli were one that no one was really talking about, and they brought back Spalletti, the former Roma manager, this summer, and he's just come in. Not a huge number of changes, but he's just a really solid manager, and they just look really good. And when we're talking about great strikers, Haaland and Lewandowski and Kane and so on, I mean, one name we need to add to that list now is Victor Osimhen, the Nigerian striker for Napoli, who's already got 9 goals this season. He's only 22, looks really, really good. He could be, I mean, we're only a year out from the World Cup, and he could be like the superstar of the next World Cup. I mean, assuming Nigeria qualify, because he looked really good. And I think he got 10 goals all last season, and he's almost eclipsed that in 11 games. He really looks the real deal. And I think Napoli, it would be a romantic story for them. They've only won 2 league titles in their history, and both were with Maradona. And of course, Maradona died last year. They renamed the stadium after him. And this is the first year it's been the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona. So it would be a great story if they were to win it this year with that.
Yeah, it really would be the thought for, I think, for a lot of fans, based on that, is it'd be that feel good story. It'd be the Maradona's looking down. It's Maradona's way of saying, thank you to the football world, I guess. AC Milan, though, I mean, we knew they were good, but were we expecting them to be up the top and this far ahead this early in the year, considering that they were there or thereabouts last year, but it didn't fill you with a hell of a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I'm not surprised they're in contention. They were good last year. They were the early leaders. They had a long unbeaten run. This year it's been odd because they've been awful in the Champions League, which they hadn't been in for 8 years. But they've got a lot of good young players. And then up front, you've got Zlatan still around, even though he's pushing 40. Never thought that would work in going back there. But he's been, even at his age, and now he's back fit, he still looks like he can do it. I wasn't sure going back to Steria from MLS was a great idea. I just thought that is a big leap back up in standard. But he's handled it, and he can still do it. I think him going has been a real catalyst. The young players there have really responded to him. He does bring, I know he can be a pain, but he brings a lot with him. And the other thing with them that they didn't have last year is when Zlatan got injured, there wasn't really another forward. They were trying to play playmakers in attack, and it didn't really work. And one of the bargain basement deals of the summer, I thought, was when they signed Giroud from Chelsea for £500,000. I mean, I know he's always had his critics, but I do really think he's an underrated player. And even at this point in his career, he just scores goals. And if you've got Zlatan for 60 minutes and him for 30, you're gonna be fine. So I think I was expecting it to be Milan and Juventus this year. Juventus have had a slow start, and I don't think this year they can get back. But yeah, if I had to choose between them, I'd go Milan just because I think there's a bit more depth. I think Napoli may struggle to keep this going for a full season. But this weekend, it's Milan derby, and of course, if Inter are third at the minute, and if they win, they could get themselves back into it.
Yeah, Inter 7 points back. Roma another 5 behind Inter, and that's pretty. Oh, you got Atalanta as well, and it's kind of grouped up there: Atalanta, Lazio, Fiorentina, Verona, Juve. Probably that's the fight. I don't see Empoli or Bologna trying to get back up there.
Yeah, I think everyone else, apart from possibly Inter, is probably thinking, can we get top 4? I mean, it's the other thing, big story in Italy this year is Mourinho coming back, which was, a huge story, and Roma fans were thrilled. I mean, they obviously don't watch much Premier League over there because they've seen Tottenham, then they might have a different idea. But he looks a lot like his old self over at Roma. He just looks spiky, but in a cheeky sort of way. The whinging and the moaning doesn't seem to be there as much. He's got more of a long-term project there, and I think if Roma get top 4, he'll see that as success. And yeah, I think with Italy, we haven't seen a good title race in more than a decade now. It's really been Juve dominating for too long, and I think we've seen the same with the Bundesliga with Bayern. It's not healthy, this one-team dominance, and we saw last season probably the best title race in Europe was France, where Lille just upset PSG, and Italy really needs a title race this year. I know the national team have done great, but Serie A really feels like it needs a good season and a fun season just to get that league really back up there, because it does feel like it's become a backwater the last few years.
Oh, how much more fun do you want, mate? Juve are ninth. That's every Italian that's not a Juve fan is absolutely cheering at that.
Yeah, I mean, the strange thing is Juve are doing so well in the Champions League, so they're clearly still a good side. They've got they'll be back. I mean, Allegri's too good a manager not to be, and they've spent a lot of money on Locatelli and Berardi, the two young Italian internationals who were fantastic this summer. So they will be back. But Milan, I think with Milan and Juve will be the two for the next few years in Italy. But Napoli, this is their chance, because Osimhen, I'm going to mispronounce his name here, Osimhen, the young forward, I don't think he'll be at Napoli too much longer. I think he will be the next Erling Haaland, and that'll be it. Someone will snap him up in the summer. So this feels like with Lille last season in France, this is Napoli's big chance. And if they miss it, then I don't think they'll get another one.
Fair enough. Last topic. Should the World Cup become a buy? The fact that we're even talking about this makes me sick.
Yeah. I mean, to me, just the words World Cup mean every 4 years. And everyone has a different relationship with the World Cup, but I grew up with this tournament. It's just every 4 years. I don't see the need to change it. When you look at other sports, I mean, rugby and cricket have World Cups now, and they're every 4 years. It's you have an Olympics every 4 years and a World Cup every 4 years, and I don't get this. I think there is a split between, particularly with the national associations, between Europe and South America, the more traditional powers in the world, and the rest of the more developing nations, particularly in Asia and CONCACAF, seem more keen on this idea. But I don't think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, CONCACAF is basically the US, Canada, with a sprinkling of Mexico and Jamaica for the most part. They're the four teams. They'll do anything to commercialize and have money come at them. So if that means every 2 years, the Asian Federation, nothing would surprise me. I know a lot of the commentary here in Australia is no, please no, 4 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
It just takes so much value out of the World Cup for me. So much. Yeah, it doesn't mean as much. So many players go through a whole career being one of the best for their country, but for one reason or another, never make it past a World Cup group stage.
Yeah.
And I mean, while it takes maybe a little bit of pressure off the players, it just doesn't feel like it means that much.
No, the biggest, apart from what it means to me personally, and I think a lot of fans, there's also the practical problem that the biggest problem with football, or the football calendar, is there's too much of it. There's too many games. And they've acknowledged that in this proposal, FIFA, and said, well, the solution to too many games is to have twice as many World Cups, which makes no sense. The only way you can do that is to do away with qualifying to some degree. And I think that people say, oh, this will help the smaller nations. I'd say, well, look at someone like Andorra, to take an example. Their World Cup is their two qualifiers against the big European seed. This time it's England, and they got their trip to Wembley. England had to go there. That's a huge deal for Andorran football, and that brings money into that association and helps them. And I think the second seed in that group are Poland, who've of course got Lewandowski, so he has to go to play in Andorra's little stadium, and it generates interest, and it does a lot for the game. And I can only think, if you're going to have twice as many World Cups, less qualifiers, that means countries like Andorra and other small countries like that will lose out even more. So it doesn't make sense to me. Just practically, it doesn't make sense.
Especially if they're still looking to expand the World Cup and continue to expand. There's still the talk on and off about it. It's gone from 24 to 32. There's
now
still
to 48.
Now to 4. Yeah,
I think 2026. They've already said 48, which feels too many. But
we're not here to hand out participation awards here. It's already a month-long tournament.
Yeah.
And any more than what it is now is nearly too much. Once we hit 48,
it will just end up with a lot of just meaningless games. I mean, I don't think they've quite agreed the format, but I'm thinking it's going to be team groups of 3, which means, I think 16 groups of 3 was what I read, which would mean somebody like Brazil. The second seed would be presumably someone like let's say
Peru,
Peru or someone. Maybe the third seed's Panama, and you think, well, what is the point in even playing those games? It's obvious what's going to happen, and I think we saw with the Euros that going from 16 to 24 didn't particularly work. I mean, it was better this time, but when they did it in 2016, it just made the group stage very boring, and it just doesn't seem to work. And yeah, my suspicion is it won't happen. I think when it comes to a vote, no matter what FIFA get, I think a lot of the bigger countries, particularly in South America and Europe, will just say, well, we're not coming every 2 years, we'll come every 4 years. And so what you end up with is a tournament that's not the World Cup every second tournament. I think what might be a compromise and what might work is if they just have, instead of a second biannual World Cup, just have an extra tournament that's some sort of intercontinental thing, but without Europe and South America, and call it the Intercontinental Cup or something, and just have Asia, Africa, CONCACAF, and New Zealand just playing one tournament, like the Confederations Cup, something like that. Because I just cannot imagine the associations, particularly in Europe, turning around and saying, "Yeah, that's fine. You voted for that, so we'll come every 2 years." I think they would either say, "Well, we'll come every other one," or we'll go and have our own tournament. And you'd hope it doesn't come to that, because it would be tragic for football if the World Cup split. But I just cannot see this actually going ahead. Not in the format that they're talking about.
No, it decommercializes any advertising. It decommercializes, despite what they think. More doesn't always mean good.
No.
Sometimes less is more, and that is the case when it comes to the World Cup. Yeah, they're not going to have countries bidding. They're going to need to hold, a selection process every 2 years. It rushes that. It rushes the players. It forces them to come back early from injury, which then causes them to get hurt some more. We could roll on about this all day, but the consensus is no.
No. It shouldn't, and increasingly I think it won't. I think that I think there will be something. I think there will be some changes that might be positive, but please not this. It just seems ludicrous.
Anything but this.
Yeah, and I don't know, is Arsene Wenger just bored in his new job, and he just thought, well, let's just do this every 2 years, and it might be. The other thing that's really, really disturbing in this is Arsene Wenger was talking about this, and he kept talking about young people, which sounded an awful lot like the Real Madrid president talking about young people, and that's why he had to have a European Super League. Like that's one homogenous group telling them that they should have a World Cup every 2 years, and it's just when it's men in their 70s saying that. I mean, I feel awkward saying that, and people old enough to be older than my dad saying that is no, please stop.
Makes me cringe as a 24-year-old.
Yeah.
We will leave it at that. That is episode 3 done and dusted of the False 9 podcast. You can find the Athletes Hub on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Just search up the Athletes Hub. That's the right way. There we go. We got it right this week. Here's Jono Fearby. I'm Luke Jobson. We will catch you guys.
We'll
get there.
It's a mirror,
Mate, it's because I'm down under. Everything's flipped.
Yeah.
Which way?
The water flows differently, I know.
Oh. It's just that Simpsons episode of it going the reverse system.
Okay.
But, oh dear, we will catch you guys next time.
Okay. Bye.